Welcome to the deep dive. Today, we're taking you to Thailand. Not just for the beaches and temples, though. We're diving into their real estate market. Because guess what? It's changing. It's changing in some seriously fascinating ways. Think of it like this Thailand's economy. Well, it's hitting a few bumps in the road, and that's having a ripple effect on how people are choosing to live, especially in those popular tourist spots. You know, the ones you see in all the brochures?
That's right. And the data we have. From our source pasted text, it's showing some surprising trends. It's not just about prices going up or down. It's about a whole shift in how people think about living in Thailand.
Exactly. For example, more Thais are actually choosing to rent rather than buy. But hold on, that doesn't mean the market is crashing. Instead, certain rental markets are absolutely booming, while others are cooling down. And get this, some property types and locations are suddenly red hot, while others are losing their shine.
And that's what we're going to unpack today. We'll explore why these shifts are happening, what they mean for people living in Thailand, and maybe even what they could mean for you. You know, if you've ever dreamed of owning a piece of Thai paradise.
Okay, so first things first, renting. The data is pretty clear that more Thais are choosing to rent rather than buy. In fact, searches for rentals are way up this year, while searches for properties to buy have actually gone down.
And there are a few key reasons for this. Think about it. If the economy is a bit uncertain, renting suddenly starts to feel a lot less risky than buying. You're not tied down to a mortgage. And you have more flexibility to move if things change.
Right. It's like that renting versus buying debate everyone has, but on a bigger scale.
Exactly. On top of that, Thailand has seen a bit of a slowdown in economic growth, which means people's purchasing power, well, it isn't as strong as it used to be. And to add to the mix, household debt is on the rise, making those big purchases even more daunting.
So, it's a combination of factors, making renting seem like the smarter choice for a lot of people right now. But what does that mean for the rental market itself? Is it a renter's paradise, a landlord's dream, or somewhere in between?
Well, the data is pointing towards boom, especially when it comes to those urban condos. Rental demand has gone through the roof. We're not just talking a small increase here. We're talking millions more searches for rentals compared to last year.
Wow. So for anyone out there with a condo in Bangkok, it sounds like they've struck gold.
It certainly seems that way. And it's not just about the sheer number of people looking to rent. In some of those prime locations, there's actually a shortage of available condos. High demand plus limited supply. You know what that means?
Prices going up?
You got it. It's creating a very competitive market, which is great news if you're a landlord, but maybe not so much if you're a renter on a budget.
Okay. So condos are clearly the hot ticket right now. But what about those people who still dream of a house with a yard? Are they completely out of luck?
Not necessarily. While condos are dominating the market, houses haven't completely disappeared. The data does show that there's still some interest, especially when it comes to single detached homes. But even then, there's a clear preference for renting rather than buying.
Interesting. So it seems like even for houses, the trend is leaning towards renting. But I'm curious, within those urban condo hotspots, what kind of units are people actually looking for?
Well, it seems like everyone wants their own space, but not too much space. One-bedroom units are the most popular by far, capturing the lion's share of searches. Then come two-bedroom units, and lastly, studio apartments.
So it's that sweet spot of having your own bedroom and living space, but still keeping things compact and convenient. Makes sense for busy city living, right?
Absolutely. And remember, all of this is happening against the backdrop of a changing urban landscape. Bangkok, for example, is constantly evolving, with new developments popping up and transportation links improving. That all plays a role in which areas become desirable and how the market shifts.
Okay, so we've got the big picture. More people renting, urban condos in high demand, and a preference for smaller convenient spaces. But let's talk numbers. What are we actually looking at in terms of price?
Well, if you're looking at buying a house in a prime urban area, be prepared to shell out some serious baht. We're talking an average price tag of over 12 million baht. And if you think renting is cheaper, think again. Monthly rents for those same houses can easily reach 45,000 baht.
12 million baht. That really puts things into perspective. It seems like land scarcity and high demand are pushing prices way up. But what about condos? Are they a bit more affordable?
They are, but even condo prices are climbing. The average price to buy an urban condo is around 6.8 million baht, and monthly rents average around 14,000 baht.
While it's still a significant investment, condos do offer a more accessible entry point into the market compared to houses. But I'm guessing those prices vary depending on location, right? I mean, a condo in the heart of Bangkok is probably going to cost more than one further out.
You're absolutely right. Location is everything in real estate, and Bangkok is no exception. Some areas are simply more desirable than others, whether it's because of proximity to business districts, nightlife, or just that trendy vibe everyone wants.
Okay, so let's get specific. Where are all these renters and buyers flocking to? What are the hot spots in Bangkok right now?
Well, when it comes to condos, there's a clear top three: Asoke, Thonglor, and Ekamai. Together, these three areas are capturing a huge chunk of the interest.
And it's not hard to see why. Asoke with its bustling business district, Thonglor's chic nightlife, Ekamai's trendy cafes and boutiques, they each have their own distinct appeal.
Exactly. But those aren't the only players in the game. The Rama Axe area has also seen a lot of interest, followed by Onat Punawithi, and then we have Ratcheta Huai Kwang and Hayak Lad Prao rounding out the top five.
Okay, so those are the condo hotspots, but what about people looking for houses? Where are they heading?
Well, for house rentals,
Yeah.
some areas outside the city center are really standing out. Patanakaran, Srinakuran, and Krungthep Kritha are at the top of the list.
And what makes these areas so appealing?
They offer a mix of residential charm and convenient access to the city. They're not as bustling as the city center, but they're still well connected and offer good quality of life.
Right, so you get a bit more space and maybe a quieter lifestyle without being completely cut off from the action. Makes sense.
Then we have Ramintrawacharafong and Saimai Hatharat, which have seen a lot of development in recent years and are attracting more and more renters.
And what about Bangna? I remember you mentioned that as an area to watch.
Bangya, that's an interesting one. It's becoming a real hotspot for both rentals and resales, especially areas like Bangya KM7, Ramkhamhaeng 2, and Mega Bangya.
So it's driving Bangya's sudden popularity.
Well, improved connectivity is a big factor. New transportation links are making it easier to get around, and that's attracting people who want a more affordable alternative to the city center. Plus, there's a lot of new development happening in Bangya, which is creating more housing options and attracting businesses as well.
Right, so it's like that classic story of an up-and-coming neighborhood that suddenly becomes the place to be.
Exactly, and it shows how Thailand's urban landscape is constantly evolving, with new hotspots emerging and others evolving over time.
Okay, we've covered a lot of ground in Bangkok, but Thailand is a big country with a lot to offer beyond the capital. What's happening in the rest of the country? Are there any other provinces seeing these same trends?
Absolutely. In fact, some provinces are experiencing even more dramatic shifts than Bangkok. So if you're thinking beaches and island life, you're not wrong. Chonburi province, especially the areas around Pattaya and Sriracha, is absolutely dominating the rental market outside of Bangkok. It's attracting almost double the interest of any other province.
Chonburi makes sense. Pattaya is a major tourist destination, and Sriracha is a growing industrial hub. But what's driving that popularity, specifically in the rental market? Is it all about holiday homes and expats?
That's definitely a big part of it. Pattaya has always been popular with expats and retirees, and that's driving a strong demand for rentals. And with Sriracha's industrial growth, more people are moving to the area for work, and many of them are choosing to rent instead of buy.
Right, so it's a mix of lifestyle choices and economic factors at play. But what about those folks who crave a more laid-back vibe, maybe a bit of mountain air? I'm thinking of Chiang Mai.
You read my mind. Chiang Mai is holding its own, attracting a significant chunk of the rental interest. It's become a real hub for digital nomads and remote workers who are drawn to the city's relaxed atmosphere, affordable living costs, and vibrant expat community.
I knew Chiang Mai was popular, but I'm still surprised by how much interest it's getting. What about other provinces? Are there any other hidden gems emerging?
Well, Hua Hin is definitely one to watch. It's a charming coastal town that's attracting a growing number of tourists and retirees, and that's translating into a steady demand for rentals.
And what about Phuket? I mean, it's a world-famous island destination, so I can't imagine it's falling behind.
You're right. Phuket is still a major player, especially when it comes to luxury villas and holiday rentals. But the interesting thing is, we're seeing a shift in the types of properties that people are interested in.
Oh, tell me more about that. What kind of shift are we seeing in Phuket?
Well, in the past, Phuket was primarily known for its sprawling beachfront villas. But now we're seeing a growing demand for more compact and affordable options, like condos and townhouses.
That makes sense. Not everyone can afford a multi-million-dollar villa, especially in a market as hot as Phuket.
Exactly. And this shift towards more affordable options is opening up the market to a wider range of buyers and renters, which is keeping things interesting.
So, we've got Chonburi with its beaches and industry, Chiang Mai attracting the digital nomads, and Phuket with its mix of luxury and affordability. Are there any other provinces we should have on our radar?
Well, Khon Kaen is emerging as a contender. It's a major city in the northeast of Thailand, and it's experiencing rapid growth thanks to infrastructure investments and a burgeoning tech scene.
So it's like the Chiang Mai of the Northeast.
You could say that. It's attracting young professionals and entrepreneurs, and that's creating a ripple effect in the real estate market, particularly in the rental sector.
Wow. So many different stories playing out across Thailand. But I'm curious, are there any particularly striking examples of how these trends are actually changing things on the ground? I mean, real life stories that illustrate what's happening?
There are quite a few, but one that really stands out is the transformation of Phuket. Remember those sprawling beachfront villas we talked about? Well, in some areas, those villas are being replaced by high-rise condos and luxury resorts.
So it's like a changing skyline, almost like what we've seen in cities like Miami or Dubai.
Exactly, and it's pushing prices up to levels that were unheard of just a few years ago. In fact, land prices in Patong, one of Phuket's most popular areas, are now rivaling those in Bangkok's upscale Thon Lor district.
No way. So Phuket is going from a tropical paradise
Yeah.
to a high-end real estate playground.
In some areas, yes. But it's important to remember that Phuket is a big island with a diverse range of offerings. You still have those quieter, more traditional areas where the pace of life is slower and the prices are more down to earth.
Right. It's all about finding the right spot that fits your lifestyle and your budget. But speaking of budget, let's shift gears a bit and talk about the financial side of things. We've talked about how the economy is influencing these trends, but how are those trends playing out for people living in Thailand, both Thais and expats?
Well, for Thais, the shift towards renting is having a mixed impact. On the one hand, it's making housing more accessible for people who might not be able to afford to buy, so especially young professionals and families just starting out. But on the other hand, it's also creating a situation where more people are stuck in the rental cycle, potentially for longer periods of their lives.
Right. So it's like a double-edged sword.
Exactly. And for expats, the situation is a bit more complex. Thailand has always been a popular destination for retirees and investors, many of whom are drawn to the country's affordable cost of living. But with rising rental prices and a more competitive market, it's becoming more challenging for expats to find affordable housing, especially in those desirable urban areas.
That's like the dream of living in Thailand is becoming a bit more expensive, even if it's still relatively affordable compared to other parts of the world.
That's a good way to put it. And it's creating a new set of considerations for expats looking to make Thailand their home.
Okay, so we've covered the trends, the hot spots, and even the financial implications of this changing real estate landscape. But I think our listeners are probably wondering, what does this all mean for them? I mean, if someone is listening to this and thinking, hey, I'd love to buy a condo in Thailand, what should they keep in mind?
That's a great question. And there are a few key takeaways here. First of all, it's important to do your research and understand the nuances of the market. Thailand's real estate scene is dynamic and ever-changing. So what might be a good investment today might not be so hot tomorrow.
Right. It's not as simple as just picking a spot on the map and saying, I'll take that one.
Exactly. You need to consider things like location, property type, and of course your budget. And remember, renting might be a more viable option in the current climate, especially if you're not sure how long you'll be staying in Thailand, or if you want more flexibility.
That's great advice. And I think it's important to remember that buying real estate in any country is a big decision. So it's not something to rush into. But beyond the financial aspects, what about the lifestyle considerations?
Well, Thailand offers an incredible lifestyle with its warm climate, beautiful beaches, delicious food, and welcoming culture. But it's important to remember that it's also a very different culture from what many people are used to.
Right. It's not just a vacation destination. It's a country with its own customs, traditions, and way of life.
Exactly. So before you decide to invest in Thai real estate, it's worth spending some time in the country, exploring different areas, and getting a feel for what it's really like to live there.
That's such an important point. I think sometimes people get caught up in the romantic idea of living in paradise without fully considering what that actually entails.
It's easy to get swept away by the beauty of Thailand, but it's important to keep a level head and make informed decisions.
Right. It's not like you just book a flight and your problems are solved.
Exactly. So yeah, it's It's a balancing act, I guess you could say.
Okay, so we've covered the trends, the hot spots, and even the financial implications of this changing real estate landscape. But I think our listeners are probably wondering, what does this all mean for them? I mean, if someone's out there listening to this and thinking, hey, I'd love to buy a condo in Thailand, what should they keep in mind?
That's the million-dollar question, isn't it?
Well, million back question, maybe.
Uh-huh, right. The million-back question. And unfortunately, I don't have a crystal ball. But what I can say is Thailand's real estate market, it's dynamic and resilient.
Right, it's weathered storms before and come out stronger on the other side.
Exactly. And even though there are challenges right now, there are also plenty of opportunities.
So for our listeners who are intrigued by all of this and maybe even dreaming of owning a piece of Thai paradise, what advice would you give them?
I'd say stay informed, do your research, and don't be afraid to ask questions. Talk
Mm.
to people who live in Thailand, consult with real estate professionals, and get a feel for the market before making any big decisions. And most importantly, don't lose sight of the fact that Thailand is an incredible country with a lot to offer, whether you're a buyer, a renter, or simply a visitor.
That's great advice. And for anyone listening who might be dreaming of their own Thai adventure, whether it's bustling city life or a peaceful retreat, remember, Thailand has something for everyone. But as with any big decision, knowledge is key.
Absolutely. And I think one of the most fascinating things about Thailand's real estate market is how it reflects broader trends, not just within the country, but globally as well.
That's so true. We've talked about the rise of remote work and digital nomads, the growing importance of sustainability, and the changing demographics of who's investing in real estate. All of those trends are playing out in Thailand sometimes in surprising ways.
And it makes you wonder what's next. Will these trends continue to accelerate? Will new trends emerge? It's a dynamic landscape, and that's what makes it so exciting to follow.
It really is. So to wrap things up, let's go back to our listener for a moment. If someone is listening to this and feeling a bit overwhelmed by all the information, what's the one key takeaway they should walk away with?
I'd say the key takeaway is that Thailand's real estate market is full of potential, but it's also complex and ever-changing. Don't let that scare you off, but don't underestimate it.
Oh, there.
Do your research, seek out expert advice, and most importantly, follow your instincts.
Love that. Trust your gut, do your homework, and remember, this is about more than just bricks and mortar. It's about finding a place that resonates with you, a place where you can see yourself living, working, or simply enjoying life.
Beautifully said. And whether that place is a chic condo overlooking the Bangkok skyline, a charming house tucked away in a peaceful village, or a beachfront villa on a tropical island, Thailand has something to offer everyone.
And on that note, we'll wrap up our deep dive into Thailand's property trends. We've covered a lot of ground today, from the rise of rentals and the emergence of hotspots to the financial implications and the broader trends shaping the market.
We've also emphasized the importance of doing your research, understanding the nuances of each location, and being prepared for a dynamic market.
Exactly. And for our listeners, we hope this deep dive has given you a taste of what Thailand's real estate scene has to offer and maybe even inspired you to explore further.
After all, the best way to truly understand Thailand's real estate is to experience it for yourself.
So to everyone listening, thank you for joining us on this journey. We hope you've learned something new, gained some valuable insights, and maybe even sparked a dream or two along the way.
And until next time, keep exploring, keep learning, and keep diving deep.
That's it for this episode of The Deep Dive. See you next time for another fascinating exploration.